about the year 2023 in review. Like I mentioned before, it's essential for us to take stock of significant happenings and events that marked the old year 2023. And of course, if we're looking at Nigeria, a lot of remarkable things did indeed happen in the year 2023. Nigerians survived the year 2023 amidst the highs and the lows of the country's economy. Also in the past year, Nigeria's economy faced significant challenges in several key areas. Of course, is it the inflation rate we want to talk about, fuel and food prices hikes, transportation difficulties, energy shortages, fluctuating foreign exchange rates, and of course, we have to mention increasing house rents and school fees and much, much more. But we will take them one after the other as we take a look back at issues we all had to contend with in the past year, 2023. We start from the very obvious. The general elections. The year began on a hopeful note with the 2023 general elections scheduled for the first quarter of the year, February precisely. A lot of Nigerians went to the polls, and what is actually worth mentioning about Nigeria's general elections in the year 2023 is the fact that there was immense participation by young Nigerians. They were optimistic about a change in government that will mean a long overdue improvement in the economy as well as in other sectors. The elections, of course, ended with one of the most contested results in Nigeria's history. So that was in February when Nigerians went to the polls at the general election, and of course, the electoral umpire, INEC, delivered the results Nigerians were waiting for. All right, Chief Goddy of us, let's cast our mind back to the year 2023 and the elections. What do you recall?
Well, it was a very momentous elections in the annal of Nigerian political history. All right. I think there was so much hope, there was so much anticipation about Nigerians, because where we're coming from a place of a very hard time for Nigeria. So a lot of Nigerians believe that the election could actually usher in a bit of a respite for them, and in terms of particularly economically. Yes, election came and gone, and the winner emerged. So many people, election in the entire competition, some people will be sad, while some will be jubilating. That's what happened at the elections, and so many people were not very excited about the outcome. They were not very excited about the process that led to the elections and the outcome, because there was so much anticipation, there was so much eagerness by the young people, like you said in your remark, that yes, for the first time, we could trust an electoral umpire in Nigeria that could deliver the goods and people. The winner in that election will be what the majority of the people says, made at the ballot, unlike what happened in the past, where elections winners have always been very contentious, as it were. So at the end of the day, there were joy in some quarters, and they were kind of anguished in others, and a lot of people, there were contentions at the court until the Supreme Court put the final nail on the coffin of anybody that was hoping that it could be. And the governance has begun. Has it been a renewed hope? The very essence of man is hope itself. For you to live.
So is it continuum?
Of course.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay. Prince Chinaka, let's bring you in. What do you recall about the general elections of last year?
I would start by saying that we need to, as a people, be sincere with ourselves. We need to begin to look at the change of attitude. We need to begin to ask our questions. Was that truly an election? Was INEC impartial? Was INEC truly a body that the entirety of Nigerians would say conducted a free and fair election. That is one. So we should also be asking ourselves, why is it that the electoral laws are always tilted to favor politicians? In other words, we seem to forget that sovereignty belongs to the people. Power belongs to the people. Why is it that, consistently, our elections have always been truncated by those who are meant to conduct the elections? So for me, whether people were happy about it or not, I didn't see that as an election. I just saw it as, as a normal Nigerian thing. Normal in the sense that, anything goes. And unfortunately, we have a system where our electoral process is highly motorized. So it becomes an issue of highest bidder takes all. And until we change that narrative, we will keep having, people who are not supposed to be in power, people who are not supposed to govern, people who have nothing to offer the people holding on to power.
All right. So the elections last year was a very hot issue, and of course, the issues coming off of that elections, trickled down to a lot of other things that the year 2023 witnessed, especially for us as Nigerians. The issues are still there. Sort of like just simmering, okay? People are still holding grudges because of one thing or the other, all coming off of last year's general elections. And one of such things that still remained with us till today, that started around the time of last year's general election, is the issue of the cash scarcity. All right. Now, the then CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, first announced the redesign of the 200 naira, 500 naira, and 1,000 naira notes on the 26th of October 2022. And of course, he gave a deadline of January 31st, 2023, last year, as a deadline to phase out the old notes. What followed, after that, every Nigerian can testify. Of course, the Minister of Finance at the time, Zainab Ahmed, claimed she was not informed, and because of everything around that policy and the Naira redesign, the Naira fell sharply in the foreign exchange market, selling at one pound to about 1,000 Naira and 800 Naira to $1 at that time. By January 2023, the new Naira notes were still not in circulation as promised by Godwin Emefiele, and this led to a whole lot of chaos. The Nigerian populace couldn't access cash to do the needful. People resorted to selling Naira notes blatantly on the streets of Nigeria. That's if you can even get the notes to buy. It was a whole lot. Can you recall the cash scarcity era of Nigeria?
The experience was awful. Nigerians were made to go through a whole lot. I always think, Francis said, politicians always find a way to do things to favor themselves. Meanwhile, when they want the power, they come to the people. Now, that experience itself was a complete failure of government. Whoever that was the president at that time shouldn't be celebrated in any way, because Nigeria went through, even in the time of war, currency has never been ordered that much. In the time of war, that the country is facing crisis, that there is war. Nigeria has never faced that kind of crisis in the first. You have your money, you cannot access it. The country is in transition. There is a president, there is a Senate president, there is a Speaker House of Assembly, there is state governors and everybody. In the state of complete, because the absence of violence, not because we have peace. Now we have that kind of problem. You saw Nigerians, adults, stripping themselves naked in demanding for their money. They were not begging. They have money, they could not access it. All of those things were not the makeup of Nigerians. And it was the makeup of the government, those who were in authority. What happened? If you have a crisis, right now, like what we are facing now, now, I mean, you go to bank, you cannot afford to collect more than a certain amount of money, and it's still your money. You cannot do anything with it. Now, it is only better now because the banks have also not conspired against Nigerians to make sure that their system do not work. Because what happened in early 2023 was that the bank conspired with the government to punish Nigerians. Okay, you are not making cash available, so why are your system not working for me to make transfer?
Online transactions.
Online transaction. Why am I unable to do that? So why should I? Because personally for me, I don't like handling cash. It's not my thing. So if I have cash, the propensity for me to spend it is very high. So what I do is that I do transfer. I make online. But the banks were completely shut down, and we didn't know why. Why they shut down there up to today? No bank has explained why that happened. So Nigeria went through hell. You saw some Nigerians taking law into their hand by vandalizing the financial institutions, branches, and the rest of it. And people were hungry. People were suffering. People resort to begging that if you have 20,000 naira in my area, you are a big man, cash. In fact, and a big man who has so much money in his bank can come and beg you for 5,000 naira. All right. So that experience it's not something that we should relieve in any way. But it's better relieved because it will help us move ahead, structure ourselves. The government will understand that look. All of a sudden, in some places, we were on this show every week talking about that episode. In some countries, those things could have triggered massive chaos. And you saw what happened too. In Edo State, people were on the streets, vandalizing, raping, stealing, right? They capitalized on that opportunity. And the government didn't do anything. The government couldn't do it. So at the end of the day, it was a very massive, and I was afraid that it could happen when last year when it started. The only thing is that the situation was managed seamlessly in a way that it's only that you have to pay more at the point of sales. That's POS. You have to pay more to access your
cash. Thank you, Chief Ofose. Now, the scarcity of the Nigerian currency actually spiraled into so many things. One of those things is the rise of the POS agents who resorted to extorting Nigerians before they could have access to the little available cash that they had themselves. All right. One of the questions people are still asking till today on the issue of cash scarcity is, what exactly went wrong with a policy that, according to the then CBN governor, was designed to be so good and to help Nigerians? Over to you, Prince Chilaka. Now, according to MFLA, that policy was designed in a way to have taken Nigeria, out of the doldrums of a lot of the issues we're dealing with, insecurity being the biggest one amongst them. So, why exactly do you think that policy went awry? Do you think Nigerians contributed to the failure of that policy?
In all of this, who has become to the Nigerian people what transpired? Who has? We had an election, as we started off, we talked about an election. We had an election where the electoral umpire came and said there was a glitch. How many months down the line, who has come up to explain to the Nigerian people what that glitch is all about? Nobody has done that. So we end up having a country where those we have, in quotes, elected into power have become demigods. They are no longer accountable to those who have elected them. And that's not what leadership is all about. So the problem we had with that policy, was the fact that, one, the CBN did not do enough publicity. The people were not properly educated. And the organ of government that was meant to do that, to sensitize the Nigerian people, that is the National Reputation Agency, is urgent. Two, the banks were complicit in all this. Three, the politicians. I mean, you heard when they said politicians were withdrawing the new notes. And I kept asking myself, what were they withdrawing it for? What were they hiding the money for? So the whole thing is like, it's a situation where there is a policy policy on ground, on paper, but the implementation is the problem. It's not an issue of whether the ordinary Nigerians contributed. How much do ordinary Nigerians have in the bank? How much cash do ordinary Nigerians use? The people who really hold cash much are the ordinary Nigerians who go to the local markets to buy things. And what percentage of that would affect a policy by government? What it simply means is that there are people who felt that that policy should not see the light of day. And they made sure it did not see the light of day. They didn't care how much it was going to cost the ordinary people. They didn't care whether the ordinary people were going to die or not. They didn't care whether, people were going to suffer. The point was that they didn't want that policy to see the light of day. And at the end of the day, nobody got arrested. Nobody got prosecuted. So the whole system has a problem. It is a system thing, systematic problem. It's not an individual thing. It's a systematic problem. Because if the CBN gives a directive and the commercial banks are doing something different, that means that nobody was in charge.
So you don't think the Nigerian people actually, played a part in that policy not working out the way it was planned to? Because it could have just eased us seamlessly into a cashless society.
Yes.
Other clients are cashless, as it were. So why is it hard to achieve that in Nigeria?
The policy, the initiative in itself is not bad. Every country in the world, they carry out some of these things periodically to checkmate the amount of money. It's only in Nigeria that you can go to a bar, you can go to a club, you can go to a cafe and purchase something worth 20,000 and pay with the cash in your pocket. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. A friend of mine told me that somebody came and somebody went to UK and wanted to buy something of $20,000, and he brought that cash, and somebody was like, wow, they cannot take it because they cannot account for it. You have to let that amount of money pass through the system. So that they know that it's not the laundered money that you are trying to, that it's only, you can only spend a dirty money like that. You can't spend the clean money in that manner. You can't. There's no way in the world that you see somebody working, even if the MD of an oil company, that will have amount of like about 100,000 in his pocket. It doesn't exist. And if the government ensure that now this new CBN have been allowing pumping money to the system, and that's why we are having this kind of galloping inflation everywhere. Is going to when so much money is chasing very few goods. The project in itself wasn't bad, but the execution, the implementation was terrible. You couldn't have decided to do a cash swap in December when you know that your country economy is informally based. That's very informal economy where cash, a lot of people deal with cash. You cannot go to a local market in my place and tell the woman you want to transfer cash. But there is nowhere in the US, in the UK, that you are going to do a transaction without going through the bank, the formal sector. So you have an informal economy. You want to create, and knowing full well that at that point in Nigeria, a lot of people move from one point to the other, and they are going to need cash. And that at that point is the time that you are starting cash swap. Why don't you do cash swap from February when people are struggling? They don't have cash anymore. So the small cash people are being conservative with little money that they have. And from there till the end of the year, you could have introduced from phases. You cannot use cash swap in 3 months in a country like Nigeria, and you think you are going to be successful about that.
All right, but we are still feeling the effects, of everything that happened, with the cash scarcity. Till today, the banks, like you rightly pointed out, don't have so much cash to customers.
To now
withdraw.
Even with the new and the old
and
existing.
Okay,
coexisting.
Yes, exactly.
I think we mustn't lose sight of one thing that happens in this country. They normally say what goes up never comes down.
Naturally, what goes up must come down.
Yes, but in Nigeria, when it goes up, it keeps going. It keeps going.
Of course.
Now we've had this systematic problem. Any bad policy that affects just ordinary Nigerians, you can never get it.
Have you reversed?
Yes. You can never. Go and check history. You know, you're talking about cashless. Cashless is a wonderful thing. But then, you know, I think I've heard the new CBN governor trying to blame Emefiele for the current scarcity of funds again. And I'm like, what is going on? Why should we be talking about scarcity now? Why? You go to bank, you want to cash money, they tell you can't withdraw more than 10,000.
10,000.
What is going on? But then, you and I know that the unfortunate political class that you and I claim to have elected don't go through this stress. It is just the ordinary Nigerians.
Money is delivered to their homes.
It's just the ordinary Nigerians. In other words, we just have a system in place that makes sure that the ordinary Nigerians do not breathe.
I don't know about that one.
All right, if you're just joining us, you're watching Tuesday's edition of The Buzz, and today on the program, essentially the entire week, we will be looking at the year 2023 in retrospect. All right, so far we've looked at the general elections. We've also talked about cash scarcity saga that took place early last year, plus also the rise of POS agents, and that has actually trickled into this year 2024. We're still quite dependent on POS agents for cash flow in Nigeria. Now, another issue that made headlines and is still making headlines from last year is the fuel subsidy removal. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was sworn into office on the 29th of May 2023, and at that inauguration, the president's inaugural speech set the tone for fuel subsidy removal when he said fuel subsidy is gone. Now, from the 1st of June last year, the policy implementation commenced. Consequently, the fuel pump price jumped from 198 naira per litre to 617 naira per litre. This led to a hike in the prices of transportation, food, goods and services, and much more nationwide. All right, since after the removal of fuel subsidy, the economy of Nigeria is yet to recover from the effect. The National Bureau of Statistics actually said consumer price index showed that inflation jumped from 28.20% in November to 22. I beg your pardon, let me take that again. In May of 2023, inflation rates jumped from 22.41% to 28.20% in November, and the rate is actually quite higher than that presently. All right, like I mentioned, this development has pushed up the cost of living, including house rent, school fees, and every other thing. Let's talk about this fuel subsidy removal and the effect it still has.
Whatever President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration turn out, all his policy will be aimed on subsidies gone. And I think it was immature, it was inappropriate at that point, because what we were told at that point was that Muhammadu Buhari has made arrangements for subsidy to continue to June. So how sudden? That means I must have paid, must have made budgetary provision for it to be taken care of, So how did the subsidy removal now gone in May? Now, such a policy announcement is supposed to have been taken into consideration. The effect, that's the effect means the consequences, both positive and negative. Now, the positive is that the government coffers will be swollen. The money that we used to pay, we are not going to pay, we add it to the budgetary monthly allocation and share, so still we have more money. Then the consequences, negative consequences, is that there's going to be impact, negative impact on consumer goods, on transportation, all right? Because Nigeria is not a country that has a well-tailored government-made transportation system. So we we rely basically on private individuals to run their transport system. So right? So definitely when the fuel, the only thing that the government would do at that time to help the transporters was that okay, they keep paying small amounts and they pay small. So they do not charge so much. Nigeria do not pay so much. And when the subsidy is gone, all of these things were going up. Salary was static. Inflation set in, and if you were earning 100,000 naira, your 100,000 naira become 30,000 naira at the end of the day. So government did not address those issues before they made that massive policy announcement, which has been what we are suffering from since May 2019 today. And we are still going to suffer it because government does not seem to have a clue to how to solve that problem. No, don't forget, if you say subsidy is gone and the World Bank says that you're supposed to sell your fuel as at least 750, that means you are still paying subsidy. So can the government also in their own come down from their high horse and explain to us why we are still buying? Because when we peg a pump price at 600 naira per liter, we are talking about Lagos. Nigerians, others, if you go to my village, if you go to Oron, where I come from, the pump price is almost about 800 naira per liter. You go to Kokano, you go to Sokoto, it's about almost 800 naira per liter. So at what point are we using Lagos as a basis of the larger Nigeria? Because this is the only place that the fuel in this country sells for 600 naira per liter. Only Lagos. If you go to Ogun State, it's 650. In fact, in some places in Lagos, I bought yesterday 630 naira per liter at what is it called? At Place Bus Stop. There's a filling station at that Place Bus Stop. About 630 naira per liter. So, at what point? So, why did government make that announcement? Why didn't they take into consideration? You have not even gotten into office. You have not seen the damage, because now we are hearing that there's so much damage has been done by the previous administration, which they are trying to repair. You have not gotten before you make that announcement, and you knew that making the announcement, you were just trying to play to the gallery, because all the candidates were saying they will remove something. You see, that's one thing I love about campaign. You can talk about creating a human being life without going through the natural course. What is the natural course? You know the natural course. I'm coming. What is the natural course? Then, by the time they give you the opportunity to do that, you now find that this thing that you were talking about, when you create, the one is shorter than the other hand. So at the end of the day, everybody, all the candidates were talking about removing fuel subsidy. Everybody eyed to themselves how the way they are going to go about it.
All right, that actually hinged on the next question I was going to ask you. The issue of fuel subsidy removal is actually not new to Nigerians. I mean, it's a topic of discourse across board before even the advent of this administration. So, but why did it still have such a shocking and reverberating effect on Nigerians? You know, just that mention of subsidy is gone. It's something we were all expecting. Anyway, why did it have such a huge impact?
Subsidy is gone. It was like magic. Mr. President spoke like a magician. Drew out his magic wand. Boom, 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 boom. You don't do that in a country of 200 million people. Before the elections, when they were doing campaigns, Mr. President was invited for debate.
He didn't come.
He didn't come. That debate was meant for him to tell Nigerians
the way it's going to
be.
But the other candidates also did. We're still on the same line. The other candidates also talked about the fact that subsidy has to go.
I'm sure when you were in secondary school, when you're in secondary school and you're writing an exam, there's some people who put their hands like this and they're writing. And then there are people who are copying. Copy and paste is a problem of this country. No matter how brilliant you are, you cannot execute a program initiated by another person 100%. It's not possible. Yes, the four major candidates had on the agenda to remove subsidy.
Yeah.
But the question is, were they going to remove the subsidy on the day they were going to be sworn in? realize how much was involved in his speech. Maybe he didn't realize it. That his speech as a president threw this country into confusion. And that is what subsidy is gone has resulted into. It could have been better. Come into office, like before said. Study the environment. Hold meetings with stakeholders. And agree on the modality.
Not 4 years. What are the
I mean, what is the rush in subsidy is gone? What is the rush? You and I are suffering till tomorrow. Let's suffering it. So, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as most Nigerians are concerned, so long as that phrase remains, subsidy is gone, it's going to be difficult bringing this country back to where
you met it.
It is going to be difficult. That is one. Two.
Quickly, sir.
Two. Patience. You see, if you look at the face of Nigerians today, go out there, they're journalists. Go out there, interview Nigerians. You will understand that Nigerians are going through a lot.
So much.
Nigerians are suffering.
So much.
Nigerians are. This is a Christmas that yesterday I was driving out and I saw crowds of people somewhere. And I asked what is going on. They said somebody was sharing bread of 150 naira each. The crowd was something else. It is that bad. And who suffers most? The ordinary Nigerians. They're not the ones buying cars of 160 million or 130 million. No. These are people who are looking for their daily bread, how to survive. So it is not about subsidy is gone. It's about, I keep saying it. When people say, oh, we're crossing over to a new year. What are you crossing over to? You have no change of attitude. And you're crossing over.
Okay. Mr. Chilaka, I wish we had more time to continue. But then, so far on the show, we've been discussing the year 2020.